at least I got it to the point where I felt like I can, like you call sloppy progress.
Mm-hmm.
So at least I got that. So it was out there.
Hey there, this is Patrice Washington, and you're listening to the Purpose to Platform podcast, where we share stories of women who are using their God-given gifts to chase purpose and create influence, impact, and income with integrity. In this week's episode, we're talking about why I believe that progress beats perfection any day. So when I think of progress and perfection, I can't help but think of the story of the tortoise and the hare. Y'all remember that story from when you were growing up? I don't think I've ever seen it as plainly as an adult. And I see it every day when I support people in getting to their purpose. It seems like so many people are in a race. So if you remember the story, basically the hare, challenged the tortoise to a race and just assumed because the tortoise was known for being slow and probably very methodical, that because they could sprint out ahead early on, that they meant that they had the race on lock. And if I remember correctly, the hare ended up taking a little break because he looked back and said, I don't see the tortoise anywhere in sight. Let me take a little rest. And the tortoise kept going on, no matter how hot, no matter how tired. It kept inching its way forward. And before you know it, the tortoise ended up actually winning the race because they kept going while the hare had the audacity to stop. And that's it. That's the progress, right? Like the hare thought that because they had talent. Oh, that's my favorite. People think talent means you're going to win something. Child, not if I am steadily and methodically outworking you. It does not matter how much more talented you think you are. If all you're going to do is run out there, wind yourself, and have to take a break, not show up, not post, not finish, not hit publish, not write the book, you're never going to beat the person who is consistently putting in the effort and making a deliberate choice to make progress each and every day. No way.
All right, I have one. So, but it started with all I kept hearing was you saying, expect the resistance. So I was supposed to do a live with Marsha Ann on IG on Wednesday. And, just like my asthma had been acting up, I was just feeling horrible. But anyway, before the live, I went to double check my website, make sure everything is up clear. So if we directed anybody there, it'd be fine. And the website was shut down, totally gone, giving me an error message. So I'm freaking out. I'm on the phone with GoDaddy. They're telling me, we don't host your website. And I was like, I've been paying you every month for 2 years. Of course you host my website. So it was a little bit awkward, but it turns out somebody had actually been hacking my account and they were claiming the domain as their own. And they had gotten as far as to transfer my host from GoDaddy to a separate host. So it took 24 hours, but they were able to block the hack, reclaim the domain, and put it back on GoDaddy. It was a disaster. And then I get on with Marsha Ann. I felt like everything went so well. I felt like I literally felt like a change in my body, in my presence. I remember doing a live with Dr. LaToya Wiggins in August where I kept saying to myself, I wanted to say the right things. But this time it just felt so different. Normally I'm uncomfortable, but I was just something hit me and just said, they're here to learn. They want to hear what I have to say. Just do it. And it was so good. And then right after we hung up the call, Marsha Ann lost all power. So she had no power for the night. But so anyway, that was my breakthrough. I had this huge resistance and then everything went beautifully. And I felt so much more confident.
The thing that I love about progress is that, one, it's pretty self-defined. So as long as you are one step closer to what you said you wanted to accomplish, then you have made progress. It's not always about finishing the thing, because I don't think we're ever really finished. I think you can always do something to improve. But for me, progress just looks like, if I set out to accomplish a task and there's 10 steps in it, every step is a measure of progress. And within each step, there are probably little steps, little milestones that have to be met in order to move forward. And so I think of progress as just always moving forward, and not overthinking the entire process. There's a quote that I love by MLK that I sometimes butcher, but you'll get the point. And it basically says, faith is taking the next step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. And what keeps people from really making progress is that they want to jump and skip steps, when really the only thing required, right, if you're going to be obedient and if you're going to choose faith over fear, is to get to the next step. That's it. And every step you take, every step forward, is progress in the right direction.
Hey, Candace.
Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. So my win is 2 weeks ago, I started my group coaching program, the Seedling Circle. I didn't have a landing page. I didn't have a whole bunch of stuff. I just word of mouth. I have 5 people in that, and I have a one-on-one client. And again, no advertising, no nothing. And I'm really grateful for each of those people and just the epiphanies that they're having, the shifts that they're having already at like week 1. They're like crying in the group sessions, they're crying on the one-on-ones, and I'm just like, geez, okay, all right, Lord, well, you do it.
I think the number one thing that holds people back from making progress and from really pursuing their purpose is perfectionism. Like, I remember when people were so proud to call themselves a perfectionist. Like, everything must be, done immaculately. And while I believe in doing things in excellence, I definitely have seen in my own life how perfection held me back. I was raised to believe that if you're going to do something, it must be perfect. And so that would make me do the same activity over and over again until I had crossed every T and dotted every I. But as we know, the world that we live in is rapidly changing every day. And sometimes by the time you have perfected something over a number of weeks, months, for many people, years, it's now obsolete. It's not even a thing anymore. People have done it 2 and 3 and 4 times and made what I called sloppy progress while we were waiting on perfection. And so I learned several years ago that in my case, a completed book was better than a perfect book. A launched program was better than a perfect program, because those things were already out there helping people, which ultimately was the goal. The goal was never to show up as this perfect person who had it all together. The goal was to be the guide for people who may be a few steps behind and needed someone who had been there, done that, to just give them not a handout, but a hand up. And so people don't require our perfection in order for us to fulfill our purpose. People just need us to be obedient and do the thing that we were called to do.
I feel like this week has been one of those do the work weeks for me. It's been one of those things like, okay, like you can talk about this all day, every day, very similar to what the theme of the call has been about, but you can talk about this all day, every day, but you got to like do something. And I had been stuck for a really long time especially because like my assistant that I had been working with, long story short, I had to let her go. And that was hard because she was a friend of mine, you know, and I really cared about her. And I really, you know, felt like I didn't want to have to do that. I really just did not. I really didn't. And I literally did nothing for 8 weeks while I tried to give time to heal this issue and get better. And I've learned some valuable lessons, and I'm like, I'm not letting anybody take that kind of time from me again. You know, not wanting to step on toes, not wanting to offend by hiring somebody different, not wanting to, you know, be insensitive, except I'm not doing that again. It took me so much longer to get moving. And so I got my new assistant moving this week, which is a major blessing because sis ain't had no money. And I had spoken to this woman months ago, but I was trying to make sure she didn't come into a rocky house. I wanted to make sure everybody was going to work together. And so months ago, I had the money to hire her. And then I went to her this week like, sis, like, I still want you. I'm just trying to get to a space where I can afford to hire you. And she was like, listen, like, I am here. Like, use me. We will go ahead and create a tab and let's get started. Let's not be stuck anymore.
The phenomenon that really is puzzling to me at times is this idea that everyone can come into the marketplace and make 6 and 7 and 8 figures overnight. That's where we just totally abandon the idea of slow and steady wins the race. Like, you cannot come into these industries and have this whirlwind of an experience and assume that you're going to win the prize. And then have the audacity to be annoyed by people who are telling you, I've been at this for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and tell them, well, it don't take all that. Slow and steady wins the race. I'm not saying that you can't have a win early on. I've launched things and I've put things out there, and there are some things where I did have a win early on, but there's never been something that didn't have some experience and some substance behind it to at least back up that win. And for anyone who's launching something and you found yourself being the hare and you're now frustrated because it didn't go the way that you wanted it to go, you have to remember that slow and steady wins the race. That was not an indication that you could stop. That was not an indication that you were not good enough. Doubt does not mean don't do it anymore. That's an indication that maybe you need to slow down and break down this thing you say you want and take time to master different elements of what it is that you're doing. But do it as the tortoise so that you can take it all in, see what's around, check out your competition if you need to, and then make intentional steps to get back in the race or to keep yourself in the marathon. But this race to 7 figures is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And it is the catalyst for so much burnout, for people questioning their gift, for people assuming that their calling was canceled because something didn't go well. Anyone who's had any measure of success will tell you, if they're honest, that there were some things that they rushed at different points in time and the results were not good. And when they learned how to slow down and do fewer things a million times instead of doing a million things a few times, that's when their business, their life, their profit, everything began to change.
Someone told me that I needed to get a line of credit and stuff, and the people I've been working with as like a community-based business, they wouldn't do anything with me. So someone said, Dionne, maybe you at the point now where you're growing, maybe it's time for you to talk to a bank, because before banks wouldn't talk to me. So I got up the courage and I went to my bank and I got a email, because I went yesterday, and I got an email today that she pushed it through, and I'm going to get a business credit card that's going to help build up my Dunn's business, all that other stuff. And he's going to talk to me about a line of credit down the road. So I'm still small, but I'm bigger than what I thought I was. At least I got it to the point where I felt like I can, like you call sloppy, sloppy progress. Mm-hmm. So at least I got that. So it's out there.
And so chase purpose is not about struggle. It's not about a race like you're the hare, right? You can be in purpose and be the tortoise. Like you can make progress, and that progress, when it's intentional and it's purposefully done, can get you 10 times further without the stress and struggle if you're just at least aligned on the right path, versus doing a million things on the wrong path and then recognizing that you burnt yourself out and you have absolutely nothing to show for it. So it's not about being in some race where you're going super fast nowhere. It's about being methodical and intentional and purposeful and taking the next best step on the right path. This is Patrice Washington, and thank you so much for listening to the Purpose to Platform podcast. If you resonate at all with this episode, please subscribe to the show via Apple Podcasts and rate and review. The ladies and I have enjoyed our time with you this week, and we invite you to join us next week for a brand new story. Take care.